My girlfriend said, "We need to break up. My coworkers told me that I could do better." I replied, "Go ahead." Then I packed my things, disappeared from her life, and upgraded everything. Now she wants me back. My name is Alex. I am 31 years old, and I work in operations for a mid-sized logistics company. I live in a busy metro area in the Midwest, and my days are structured. Early mornings, long meetings, gym at night, repeat. I value routine and quiet progress. My girlfriend was Maya. She is 29. We were together a little over 2 years and lived together for the last 9 months in her apartment. I paid most of the bills because my income was higher and it made sense at the time. No kids, no pets, shared furniture, shared schedules, or at least I thought we did. I am posting here because I need outside perspective, not validation. I know Reddit tends to default to dump her and move on, but I want to explain the full situation because the sequence matters. When Maya and I met, she was sharp and funny and a little rough around the edges in a way I mistook for confidence. She worked in marketing at a mid-level firm and talked a lot about ambition and leveling up. I respected that. I am not flashy, but I am consistent, and early on she said that was grounding for her. Things started shifting about 6 months ago when she got close with a new group of coworkers. Mostly single, mostly loud. Lots of after-work drinks and group chats that never stopped buzzing. I was supportive at first. I never checked her phone. I never complained about late nights. I assumed we were adults who trusted each other. What I did notice was tone. Small comments. Jabs framed as jokes. Remarks about how other men at her office dressed better or made more money or had more exciting lives. She started saying things like, "Maybe we are just in different phases." Or, "You are great, but sometimes I wonder if this is it." I addressed it calmly. I asked if she was unhappy. She said I was being sensitive and that her coworkers just helped her see her worth. That phrase stuck with me. Last week on a Tuesday night, she came home unusually calm. Too calm. She sat across from me at the kitchen table and said we need to talk. That was when she told me her coworkers thought she could do better. That is where this really starts. She said it plainly, almost rehearsed. That her coworkers thought she could do better. She did not raise her voice. She did not insult me directly. She just looked at me like the conclusion was obvious and inevitable. I nodded once. Not in anger. Not in disbelief. Just acknowledgement. I stood up from the table, went to the bedroom, and pulled my duffel bag out of the closet. She stayed seated. I could feel her watching, but she did not follow me or comment. I packed efficiently. Clothes only. Work stuff. Toiletries. Things I had bought myself. No dramatics. No slamming drawers. My heart rate was steady, which surprised me more than anything else. I think I had already accepted this outcome weeks earlier without realizing it. When I walked back into the living room with the bag over my shoulder, she finally spoke. She said, "Okay." That was it. No argument. No attempt to stop me. No reassurance. Just okay, like we were confirming a canceled appointment. I asked when she wanted me to come back for the rest of my things. She said we could coordinate later. Her tone was polite, almost professional. That was when it really hit me that she had already emotionally left. This conversation was not a discussion. It was a notification. I walked out and closed the door behind me. In the car, I sat for a full minute before starting the engine. Not because I was overwhelmed, but because I needed to register that it was actually over. No explosion. No villain. Just a clean cut. I checked into a hotel near my office that night and slept straight through. The next morning, I went to work, then signed a short-term lease on a furnished place closer to downtown. New neighborhood. New routines. Fewer reminders. 3 days later, I came back while she was at work and packed the rest of my belongings. She had moved nothing of mine. Everything was exactly where I left it. That felt intentional. That evening, the text started. Not hostile. Just uncertain. She asked if I was okay. Said things felt sudden. I did not respond. Not out of spite. Because leaving was the response. The messages kept coming over the next 2 days. Nothing explosive. Just short check-ins. "Are you okay? This feels weird." One message said she hoped we could talk like adults and get closure. I ignored all of it until Sunday night. Not because I was overwhelmed, but because I wanted to be intentional if I responded at all. I had already moved my things. I had already changed my address with work. The decision was done. What remained was housekeeping. So I replied once. One message. No back and forth. I told her I wished her luck. I said I hoped she found someone who matched what she and her coworkers were looking for. I said there was no anger on my end and no need for closure conversations because the situation was already clear. I ended it by saying I was moving on and would not be staying in contact. She responded almost immediately. Longer message. More emotion this time. She said she never meant for it to end like this. That she thought I would push back or ask her to reconsider. That the whole thing escalated faster than she expected. I did not reply. Instead, I blocked her number. Then Instagram. Then LinkedIn. Then email. Anywhere we had overlap. Not out of cruelty. Out of efficiency. I know myself well enough to know that open channels invite unnecessary noise. That night, I sat in my new apartment surrounded by boxes and realized something uncomfortable. She did not break up with me because I was bad to her. She broke up with the version of me she compared against other men. And I had no interest in auditioning. The next week was quiet. Almost unsettlingly so. No notifications. No updates. No sudden apologies. Just silence. I filled it with work, gym sessions, and setting up my space exactly how I wanted it. Minimal. Functional. Calm. Friends asked what happened. I kept it simple. We wanted different things. No long rants. No character assassination. I was not trying to win a narrative. 2 weeks later, a mutual friend mentioned she was surprised I disappeared so completely. Apparently Maya had told people she expected some kind of dramatic phase. Anger. Negotiation. A comeback. There was none. I did not downgrade my life out of spite. I upgraded it because I was no longer negotiating my value in a room full of people who did not know me. And that was just the beginning. About a month after I left, the changes started compounding in ways I did not plan, but also did not resist. The shorter commute gave me back almost an hour a day. I used it to train harder and sleep better. I picked up a project at work that I had previously passed on because it would have meant more time away from home. Without needing to negotiate my schedule, I took it and delivered results fast. That turned into a promotion discussion sooner than expected. Nothing dramatic. Just more responsibility, more autonomy, and a noticeable pay bump. I did not announce it to anyone. I just adjusted my budget and kept moving. I also moved cities. Not across the country, but far enough that running into her was no longer a background concern. New lease. New routines. New gym where no one knew my relationship history. That alone felt like oxygen. Around this time, mutual friends started acting strange. A little guarded. A little curious. One of them eventually told me Maya had been asking questions. Not directly. Indirectly. How am I doing? Am I dating? Did I really block her everywhere, or was that temporary? Apparently, she had expected a cooling off period. Some time apart followed by a recalibration where I came back improved and apologetic. Instead, I vanished and my life kept expanding without her. The tone shifted after that. The curiosity turned sharp. She started saying things like it was immature to block someone. That disappearing like that was avoidant behavior. That she never actually broke up with me, just wanted honesty. The same coworkers who told her she could do better were now validating that I had failed some invisible test. I heard all of this secondhand and felt nothing but distance. Not anger, just detachment. The opinions of people who never knew me stopped carrying weight the moment I stopped standing in front of them. What struck me later was not that she wanted me back. It was that she wanted access. To reassurance. To the version of me that absorbed doubt and stayed put. That version no longer existed. The upgrade was not the job or the city. It was the absence of negotiation. And that made her absence permanent. A few weeks after that second block, the indirect contact ramped up. It never came from her directly. It came through friends who suddenly wanted to grab coffee or check in. People who had been neutral during the breakup now seemed oddly invested in my emotional availability. The pattern was obvious. Someone would ask how I was doing. I would answer briefly. Then they would mention Maya without mentioning her, saying things like she is having a hard time or she did not expect things to end so cleanly. One friend actually said she felt replaced by my silence. That phrasing stayed with me. What became clear was that the disappearance bothered her more than the breakup itself. There was no arc where she got to feel chosen or reconsidered. No moment where she could frame herself as the one who walked away. The story ended without her input. I learned later that things at her job shifted too. The coworkers who encouraged her suddenly lost interest when the narrative stopped being entertaining. One of them started dating a guy Maya had openly compared me to. Another left the company. The feedback loop disappeared. That is when the tone changed again. Less confidence. More regret. She told a mutual friend that she thought I would come back improved. That the point was to motivate me. Hearing that confirmed everything I needed to know. I was not a partner in her mind. I was a project. Around this time, my life actually stabilized in a way that felt permanent. I furnished the apartment exactly how I wanted. Minimal. No compromise pieces. I started taking weekend trips alone. I reconnected with friends I had slowly deprioritized. Nothing flashy, just alignment. Then one afternoon I got an email at work from an address I did not recognize. It was her personal email. She said she missed our conversations. She said she felt like she misjudged me. She asked if we could talk sometime soon. I deleted it without replying and blocked that address too. That was the moment I realized something important. Closure is not something you owe someone who already decided your value with a group vote. Closure is something you give yourself by not reopening doors that were closed cleanly. And from that point on, the story shifted again. The real shift happened when she finally tried to see me in person. Not randomly, not by accident. She showed up where she knew I would be. I was leaving the gym on a Thursday night, same time I always went, when I saw her car in the lot. I recognized it immediately, even though I had not seen it in months. She was leaning against it like this was some movie moment she had rehearsed. She smiled when she saw me. Not nervous, confident, like she had finally figured out the right move. She said hey, asked how I had been, commented on how different I looked. She said it casually, but there was evaluation in her eyes. The kind you do when you are checking if an option is still available. I kept it polite. I said I was doing well. I did not stop walking. She matched my pace. She told me she had been doing a lot of thinking, that the breakup gave her perspective, that her coworkers had projected their own insecurities onto her relationship, that she realized stability was rare and she may have undervalued it. I listened without reacting. No nodding. No encouraging cues. Then she said the line that ended it completely. She said maybe we both needed this time apart to grow, and maybe now we could talk about starting fresh. That was the first time I actually stopped. I looked at her and told her no. Calmly. No edge. I said we were not on a break. We were done. I said I did not disappear to be rediscovered. I left because I meant it. Her expression changed. Not anger. Something closer to disbelief. She said she did not understand how I could just shut her out like that after everything. I told her that was exactly why. I wished her well again. Then I walked to my car and drove home. Later that night, I blocked the last remaining connection we had through mutuals who kept relaying information. Not because I was hiding, because I was finished. That encounter made one thing clear. She did not miss me. She missed the version of herself that felt powerful when I stayed. And once I understood that, there was nothing left for me to question. After that encounter, things went quiet again. This time for real. No friends checking in. No secondhand updates. The absence felt deliberate, like she finally understood there was no angle left. My life kept moving forward in very ordinary, but meaningful ways. I signed a longer lease. I took on a mentorship role at work. I started planning 6 months ahead instead of reacting week to week. The pace slowed, but the direction stayed solid. Then about 2 months later, curiosity caught up with her. A coworker of mine mentioned Maya during lunch without realizing the history. Apparently, she had applied for a position at a partner company we occasionally collaborated with. Same industry, different role. She had dropped my name in conversation, casually, as someone she used to live with who worked in operations. That was the first time she had used my proximity as leverage. The application did not go anywhere. Not because of me, because she was underqualified. But hearing that she still referenced me in professional spaces was telling. I had become part of her credibility instead of her past. A week after that, I received one final message. It came through a mutual friend who I had not blocked because they had stayed neutral the entire time. He asked if I would consider unblocking her because she wanted to apologize properly, not to get back together, just to clear the air. I thought about it longer than I expected, not because I missed her, because I wanted to be sure my no was not reflexive. In the end, I said no. I told him she already said everything she needed to say the night she let her coworkers define my worth. Anything after that was revisionist. He understood. He did not push. What surprised me was how little emotion came with that decision. No tension, no relief, just finality. Like closing a tab you forgot was open. Some people think disappearing is immature. I think lingering where you are not respected is worse. At that point, the story could have ended there. Clean, quiet, done. But it did not. Because that is when she actually wanted me back. It started subtly at first. A like on an old post from a burner account. A friend telling me Maya asked if I was seeing anyone serious. Then it escalated. She showed up at a mutual friend's birthday dinner I had already committed to. I did not expect to see her there, and judging by the way she froze when we made eye contact, she did not expect me to look so unbothered. She lingered nearby the entire night, laughing a little too loud, checking her phone a little too often, making sure I noticed she was being noticed. At one point, she pulled me aside. Not dramatically, just enough to talk. She said she had made a mistake, that she underestimated what she had, that losing me had been a wake-up call. She said the dating pool was not what her coworkers made it sound like, that comparison culture was toxic, that she missed how calm things were with me. I listened. Again. Then she said she had been thinking about the future a lot. Stability, partnership, building something real. She asked if I ever thought about what could have been if we had handled things differently. That was when I finally understood the full picture. She did not want me back because she loved me. She wanted me back because the alternative did not outperform the memory. I was not the first choice then. I was the safe correction now. I told her I was glad she had learned something from the experience. I told her I hoped she found what she was looking for. And I told her I was not interested in revisiting the past. She looked genuinely shocked, like she had expected resistance or negotiation. Instead, she got closure she did not control. She asked if there was really no chance. I said no. Not because I was hurt, because I was finished. I left shortly after that. Later that night, she texted me from a number I had not blocked yet. She said she would do things differently this time, that she would not let other people influence her, that she was ready now. I blocked that number too, because readiness after loss is not the same as readiness from respect. And that was the moment the dynamic finally flipped for good. After that, her attempts stopped completely. No more indirect feelers. No surprise appearances. No new numbers. What replaced it was reputation management. I started hearing that she had reframed the story. Not aggressively. Carefully. She told people the breakup was mutual. That we grew apart. That I had always been a bit emotionally closed off. Nothing outrageous. Just enough to protect her image without reopening contact. I did not correct it. I did not counter it. Anyone who mattered already knew how I move. Quiet consistency has a way of speaking for itself. What had changed was how people interacted with me. At work, I was suddenly being taken more seriously. Not because of my title, but because I was decisive. In my personal life, I noticed something similar. People listened more closely. There was less testing, less probing. Boundaries, when enforced once and cleanly, tend to stick. About 6 months after the breakup, I ran into one of her former coworkers at a conference. We ended up talking over coffee between sessions. She mentioned Maya unprompted. Said she had gone through a rough patch after I left. That she was frustrated because things did not improve the way she expected them to. That the same coworkers who hyped her up had quietly distanced themselves when there was nothing left to gossip about. The coworker laughed awkwardly and said something that summed it all up. She said, "I think she thought you were a floor, not a ceiling." That sentence explained everything retroactively. I was not someone she built with. I was something she stood on while looking elsewhere. And when I stepped away, she fell back to ground level and realized how far up she had been. By then, I was already elsewhere mentally. Dating again, slowly. Not chasing chemistry, but alignment. Asking different questions. Watching behavior instead of listening to narratives. The irony was that the more my life stabilized, the less dramatic it looked from the outside. No glow-up montage. No revenge arc. Just forward motion. And that, apparently, bothered her more than anything else ever had. About a year after everything ended, I realized I had stopped thinking about Maya entirely. Not actively avoiding the thought. Just genuinely not accessing it anymore. That was how I knew it was finished. I was settled in a different city, in a role that challenged me without draining me, and in a relationship that felt quiet in the right way. No comparisons. No audience. No third-party commentary. Just two people choosing each other without needing validation. Every once in a while someone would still bring her up. Usually unintentionally. She had moved jobs again. Changed friend groups. Started dating someone new. The updates sounded busy and restless. I wished her well privately and moved on with my day. Looking back, the moment that mattered most was not when she said we should break up. It was how easily she let me go. That told me everything about how she valued what we had. I just responded in kind. People like to frame disappearances as dramatic statements. Mine was not. It was logistical. When someone tells you they think you are replaceable, the correct response is not to argue your case. It is to remove yourself from the comparison entirely. I did not win her back. I did not try. I did not need to. What I gained was something far more useful. Proof that I could walk away cleanly. Proof that I did not need consensus to trust my own judgment. Proof that stability does not come from convincing someone to stay, but from choosing where you no longer belong. If anyone reading this is in a similar position and waiting for the right response, this is it. You do not need to announce your exit. You do not need to justify it. You do not need to prove anything after you leave. Sometimes the most decisive move is silence followed by forward motion. That was the end of it for me, and the beginning of everything else.